acknowledgement, the reflex action of a sign to Bodhihara as they passed, but few turned their gaze to look for the source of the chant. A monk sitting by his alms cup was as common a sight as a riverman at his oar. A coin rattled dully into the monk's leather cup, and he gave a quick double bow, not interrupting his chant or looking up to see who his benefactor might be. Without warning, the already cool air turned colder and the wind died to a calm. The whispering of ghosts fell to a hush. It seemed only the chanting of the young monk moved the air, and the pedestrians hesitated as though they'd suddenly forgotten the purpose of their outings. There was a long moment of this eerie stillness, and then a deep roll of thunder shook the walls of Rojoma, seeming for all the world to have originated in the depths of the earth, so substantial did it feel. The air took on form and turned to white as hail pelted down in a sudden torrent. The staccato of ice stones drumming on tile drowned out all other sounds, but in moments it reduced its volume to a mere drizzle, then turned to rain. At the first crash of thunder, the residents of Rojoma hurried to cover, leaving the monk alone on his wall, still chanting, apparently oblivious to the pelting hail despite the thinness of his robe. The monk's recent benefactor stood under the bridge, hoping the downpour would not last and contemplating the timing of his offering with the bursting of the clouds. It was not the blessing he had hoped Bodhihara would bestow. He shook the hailstones from his robe, brushing the white pebbles off the shinta blossom and flying horse emblems embroidered over his heart. Several of Sa's more humble residents shared the man's refuge, but they stood apart from him and had bowed deeply before stepping into the shelter, waiting for his invitation. Though still a very young man, Corporal Roku was a member of Governor Shonto's personal guard, and, as such, a person of some importance despite his lack of years and low rank. The corporal's father was the captain of Lord Shonto's personal guard, and it was the young man's secret hope to bear this rank himself in his time. Even more, it was his dream that the Roku name would be bound to that of the Shonto over generations of important service, as the Shigotu of old had attained fame for their service as elite guards to 7 generations of Mori emperors. For the time being, he would have to accept a more humble position, for he was not sure that Lord Shonto even knew his name. Beyond the shelter of the bridge, hailstones flowed down tiny rivers that ran between cobbles, disappearing before they made their circuitous way to the canal. Corporal Roku found himself following their progress, trying to decide where the stones ceased to be ice and became part of the water. A second rumble of thunder shook the earth, and as though this were a signal, an ornate barge took form in the mist that hung over the canal. Before Roku truly registered this, the barge faded again, reappeared, and then disappeared wholly into the clouds, as though it had been only a specter of mist shaped by an errant eddy of wind. Rain and hail forgotten, the Shonto guard mounted the stairs back to the avenue 3 at a time and ran out onto the bridge. So absorbed was he in trying to part the clouds with an act of will that he failed to notice the neophyte monk was now standing at the bridge's far end, staring into the fog with equal focus. They did not have long to wait, for the barge appeared again, this time in more substantial form. It was intricately carved, painted crimson and gold, with banners hanging limp in the teeming rain. One pennant did not need to stretch itself in the wind to be recognized, for it was imperial crimson. A 5-clawed imperial dragon would circle the sun within those folds of silk. The other pennants were unrecognizable. Corporal Roku waited with all the patience his young spirit could summon. A second barge, a typical river craft, appeared in the wake of the imperial barge, for that is no doubt what it was. Just when the young guard thought he could bear it no more, a hint of a breeze, a mere sigh, tugged at the pennants. Against a dark field, a choka hawk spread its wings, appeared to take a single beat, and then collapsed as the fickle breeze died. The guard was off at a run toward the governor's palace. As he crossed the bridge, a young Bodhist monk hurried past in the opposite direction, though the young soldier did not notice, let alone return, the monk's half-bow. There was no time to be polite to strangers. Jaku Kata had arrived, and several days before he was expected. Corporal Roku pushed on, keeping up his pace until reaching his destination, whereupon he spent several moments regaining